Hey guys, what is up? It's Blynn. Welcome back to my channel. Hi, how are you doing? Happy Tuesday. So of course, as you can tell by the title, we're going to be getting into the tea surrounding Ethan Klein and the H3 podcast crew, what they said that was derogatory in regards to the whole James Charles wearing diapers incident and how they became very messy and very derogatory towards the LGBTQ plus community. So we're going to get into it. I mean, I personally wasn't offended by the stuff that Ethan or AB or Dan said on the podcast, but a lot of people who were, a lot of H3 fans disappointed when you go and read the comments underneath their recent podcast. The part where they were talking about James Charles wearing diapers, which, by the way, it was Drama Channel Dustin Daly who I think first brought that up on Twitter. Dustin Daly put up the screenshot of that saying, oh look, James Charles has diapers in his recommended buy again list on Amazon. Is that because James Charles had a BBL? So it was Dustin Daly who originally brought that up. Now, of course, Ethan Klein was talking about this on the H3 podcast. He had people call in. It got messy. I mean, you've probably heard by now, I'm kind of late to this one because I've been at my retail job all day. But I really want to come back and talk about this. I actually took notes about this whole situation because I saw what was going on. I saw how the H3 fans started to react. I saw the way that Ethan spoke to the callers. Oh, we're here again. Ethan being dismissive of his callers who call into his podcast because he asked them to, because he wants their opinion, he wants to discuss things with them, and then when people call in, all Ethan does is fucking talk over them. So before anyone actually called into the podcast, Ethan was talking about, oh wow, you know, well, maybe men's anuses get looser and then they end up having to use a diaper to stop them from leaking out of their rectums. So Ethan was going into all this, and one of the other things that he said before he started talking about men's rectums was that he actually started saying, oh, women's vaginas don't expand or don't get loose when they have a lot of sex. So if you're a power bottom, does that mean that you have a lot of sex and your asshole gets wide and then, like, you know, it starts leaking out? Well, first thing that I want to say about that is Ethan is clearly fucking clueless about female anatomy. If Ethan was pleasing his wife in the way that he should be, then he should know that yes, the vagina does expand when you have sex. Sorry, just going to leave that there for you. I did also actually watch Dustin Daly's video on this evening when I got back from work. And one of the things that Dustin brought up in his video about this was actually how the term power bottom or bottom is thrown around within the gay community in a derogatory way, like it's an insult. Yeah, that's something that I've known about. That's something I've heard of. It's something, you know, I've heard said to people in a derogatory way in the gay community and all of that. So Dustin, what he said is absolutely valid there. You know, and also talking about the podcast, how the podcast, they've got nobody who's really LGBTQ plus to give their perspective or to kind of explain stuff. Yeah, you know, basically it's a bunch of straight guys, or who I'm assuming are straight guys with the way that they talk about everything. It's a bunch of straight guys sitting around talking about, oh, you know, gay men's anuses, when they clearly don't know anything about it. They clearly don't know anything about how gay people have sex and all of this. It's like, you know, how come you're sitting here discussing what gay men do in bed and what happens to them after the fact, when if you had a female calling in, would you ask her those questions? Would you ask that female what position she likes in bed? Would you ask that female what happens to her after sex? Would you ask a straight man if his arsehole leaks after sex? No, of course you wouldn't. If you're Ethan Klein, no, you wouldn't. But because he had a gay man calling in, he thought he could press this gay man and ask him, you know, are you a bottom? Ask him, are you a power bottom? What happens if you're a power bottom? Does your anus leak? All of these really, really personal questions. And the caller got really uncomfortable with the way that Ethan was talking to him. He got really uncomfortable. He said he didn't want to answer Ethan's questions. But Ethan kept like pressing and pressing really trying to get answers out of him. And then Ethan started making assumptions about the caller, saying, okay, well, if I said you're a bottom, just going off by how the guy speaks, Ethan was going, okay, well, if I say you're a bottom, is that true? He kept on and on and on pressing this guy for answers and all of this. And it was just really, really cringe to watch. Really cringy, because, as I said, Ethan wouldn't be doing that to a woman. He wouldn't be doing that to another straight guy. But because it was a gay guy that he had on the end of the phone calling into his show, he thought it was okay and acceptable to speak to that person in the way that he did, and to continue to pester them about their sex life. Here's the thing, it wasn't only Ethan Klein talking to people in a derogatory way, it was also Dan and AB on the podcast crew. They were both very kind of insulting and very derogatory to the gay people who called into the podcast also. So it wasn't like it was all just Ethan on his own. It was the whole lot of them, you know, really the whole lot of them. And it was kind of really cringe to watch. I was really embarrassed for the gay guy who called in, first of all. I was so embarrassed for him with the way that Ethan was just pressing and keeping on, you know, trying to dig for information. Oh, are you a power bottom? What makes a power bottom? All of this. It's just like, Ethan, you just don't do that to people. You know, you really don't. And Ethan Klein, he's having to make quite a lot of apologies at the moment, because recently with the whole Will Smith slapping Chris Rock at the Oscars, Ethan Klein had to make an apology for the way that he handled that, with the way that he spoke to his callers about that. So I really feel like the whole H3 podcast is kind of going downhill at the moment, because ever since Frenemies ended, it seems like Ethan is bitter, because it seems that the podcast is losing views. It seems like he's just kind of insulting his audience, insulting the callers all of the time. And he's not actually wanting to have discussions with people. He's just going straight to insulting people and belittling people. And it's just uncomfortable to watch now. Yeah, okay, like on the H3 podcast the other day, they had Brittany Broski on, which was cool. But, like, if all you're going to do when you have the podcast on your own is insult the people who call into your podcast, who are your fans, if all you're going to do is insult those people who give you views and, you know, attention, and, you know, those people who are the reason that your channel can keep going, if all you're going to do is insult those people and never be willing to ever hear anybody else's viewpoint or anybody else's perspective, then it's like you're a pretty lame podcast, in my opinion. I really don't even know what it is about being queer that fascinates straight people so much. Like, you know, why are they so concerned with what any of us are doing in the bedroom or how we handle things? You know, why are they so concerned with it? It's like, it doesn't even need to be a thing. They don't even need to ask us about it. Like, would you go up to a straight couple and be like, who's the bloody train and who's the bloody tunnel? No, you wouldn't, right? But Ethan Klein, in his head, he thinks that's perfectly fine to speak to a gay person like that. Who's the top, who's the bottom, who's the train, who's the tunnel? It's kind of this immature toilet humour that we've seen from Ethan time and time again. You know, to be honest, Ethan Klein, in the past, he's used the N-word slur along with the F-word slur. So I'm really not surprised to find out that there were kind of homophobic undertones in his podcast recently with Ethan. Given his past, you know, no, absolutely not. You know, Ethan has been one to sit on his podcast and call people out for things that they've done or said in the past. You know, think back to, like, the Vlog Squad, David Dobrik, Jeff Wittick. Ethan Klein has been one to sit there and talk about other people. But let's talk about Ethan Klein. You know, Ethan Klein has, like I say, used the N-word with a hard R. He's used the F slur for people. So Ethan Klein is absolutely no saint. Ethan Klein, you know, yeah, he can say he's grown, he's changed. He can put out a half-assed apology on Twitter, which is what he did in this situation. Again, he's put out a half-assed apology on Twitter to the LGBTQ plus community. But, like, does it really mean anything? You know, are you really learning and growing? No, I don't think you are, Ethan. You know, I think you're just continuing to try and be as controversial as you can, because I think you're bitter that you're under 3 million subscribers now and that your podcast is losing views. Genuinely, that's what I think it is. And you probably saw there from that tweet that I just put up, Donna KLEIN, Ethan's mum, responded as well. She jumped to the defence of her son over his stereotyping of gay men. She rushed to his defence, but of course people are not having it, because Ethan KLEIN at the end of the day was the one in the wrong. So Donna KLEIN has rushed to his defence over it, of course. And I just think that's like, how old are you, Ethan? And your mum is getting involved? That's quite sad, really, isn't it? That is quite sad, honestly. It's like he can't fight his own battles. He gets himself in these disasters and then he can't fight his own battles. Oh, mummy's got to step in, you know. Very that. Very, very that. That's funny to me. But, you know, also, don't say homophobic things. Don't stereotype gay men in a certain way if you don't want the backlash. Following on from this as well, Dan was apparently in a Discord with a lot of the H3 fans talking after the podcast for about 3 hours. There was a statement that was put up on Frenemies Room, and like, honestly, it's kind of sad, you know, it's kind of sad. Dan allegedly said that he would leave the H3 podcast because of all the backlash and the drama. Then he said that it's an April Fool's. It's like, you're just trolling at this point, Dan. You know, you are just trolling. But honestly, I find it all really sad, the way that they talked about gay men, the way that they were so derogatory about, you know, who's a top, who's a bottom, the way that they pressed their callers for information that their callers didn't want to give them about their own sex lives, personal details that their callers really weren't happy sharing. You know, it's just, do better, you know, do better, H3. You can do better than that, because honestly, nah. You know, I feel like they do need some kind of queer representation on the show, you know, some female representation and some queer representation, because at the moment it's just like a bit of a bro fest. Anyway, guys, I'm going to stop this little video right here. I'm going to love you and leave you. I'm going to say take care, stay safe, stay well. I will see you on the next one, and let me know all your thoughts and opinions on this whole Ethan KLEIN H3 drama, and I'll see you soon. Take care. Bye.